Hello there. Welcome back to episode 72 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And we are back with another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We are talking today about the final 4 episodes of Season 6 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. We're talking about The Lost One. We're talking about Voices. We're talking about Destiny. And we're talking about Sacrifice. 4 of my favorite episodes of The Clone Wars of all time. I'm really dig all 4 of these episodes. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob, once again. And yeah, I really dig these episodes as well. This is actually, for me, somehow the first time that I've fully watched through all these episodes together. So
really,
I think criminally underrated that I have not heard more people talking about them. These are incredible episodes. Honestly, for me, as a huge Rebels fan, as a proponent of Rebels being better, I guess I should say, as someone who has at many points liked Rebels more than Clone Wars, I think these episodes are some of the best arguments you could make for Clone Wars in my mind. Maybe pulling ahead, or at the very least being just as good.
Absolutely.
Because these episodes to me were just,
yeah.
I know this is your type of episode, Eli, but for me, these episodes just blew me away.
Yeah.
They blew me away.
You put mystical force shit in front of me, no matter how good it is, I will eat it up.
But this is just
but
so
this is
good.
Quality. This is incredible
so
quality.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. By the way, I'm not calling this stuff force shit willy nilly. I literally wrote on my document today that I took notes on, in a galaxy, force shit. I wrote disappeared arc, or the clone arc. No, I wrote force shit for this arc. Because I was that kind of guy when I decided to do that. But before we talk about the Clone Wars, we got to talk about another show. We got to talk about the Book of the the Book of Boba Fett.
Are you sure you don't mean the Book of Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, we got to talk about Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. We're actually recording this, so we're putting this out after Chapter 7 released. We're actually recording this the day before Chapter 7 releases, so we have no idea what's going on with Chapter 7 other than that it's happening and it's directed by Mr. Robert Rodriguez. But the 6th episode was directed and co-written by Mr. Dave Filoni, God bless his name, because of all that he has done for this great franchise. And who boy was this an episode?
Absolute bombshell. There were so many just head explosion, mind-blowing moments in this episode.
Yeah.
So many. I don't even... Where do we even start? Where do we even start? Because I feel like there's 3... I feel like we could... Where do we even start? Where do you want to kick things off for this discussion?
I want to start at the end just because of the thing that I was always a bit hazy about happening in the show, and people kept mentioning it. I know Brian from Pink Milk was a big proponent of it, and I'm like, I don't think it's gonna happen. Could you imagine if they brought Cad Bane onto the Book of Boba Fett, and then he just walks out, and Cad Bane is officially in live action? I don't like Cad Bane as a character, and even I was hyped.
I was so hyped and surprised, and just it was really amazing to see Cad Bane again. And yeah, it was really awesome, and it was also sad for me because Eli, I know you said you think that Cobb Vanth is still alive, and I agree. I hope he is still alive because I was really getting to like Cobb Vanth. First off,
if they kill off Cobb Vanth, that episode will decrease in value for me by 10 to 25%. If they actually make Cobb Vanth dead, which I don't think they are going to, I'm going to be very mad. But I love Cobb. Tim Olyphant is maybe the best actor in the Mandalorian universe, if I could say that actually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope we get to see more Cobb Vanth Because in the Mandalorian, I was kind of ambivalent about him at first. I know you're a big Cobb fan, Eli, but for me, I kind of didn't find his character that appealing. But I think I really liked him when he came back. I thought that somehow the fact that he lost the Beskar armor and he's no longer wearing the Boba Fett armor, that just makes him more appealing to me somehow. When he's going out there dealing with the Pykes, for example, he's that much more vulnerable as he's kind of being the brave guardian of Freetown, or Mos Pelgo, or whatever you want to call it.
By the way, they changed the name to Freetown. By the way, let's respect that canon continuity right there. Respect all that canon continuity.
Give it up for Freetown. Give it up for Freetown.
Give it up for Freetown.
So yeah, I suffice it to say, I really liked I really liked Cobb Vanth, and I hope he makes a return. Cross
of the fingers. We also got to talk about our guy. We got to talk about Luke Skywalker.
We do have to talk about Luke Skywalker because he came back in a big way.
He came back in a big way, and I don't know if you've read into what technology they've been using to bring Luke Skywalker into The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. It's insane.
It is insane what they're doing.
It's nuts. It's not even Mark Hamill voicing him. That's AI-generated voice.
Yeah, it's
blows my mind to think about.
And I think it's an interesting decision that it seems like now that they've done this not only for his little appearance in The Mandalorian, but also for a good chunk of the episode. I think it's an interesting decision that, at least for now, they're kind of saying we're not going to recast any part of Luke Skywalker's journey on screen, which I think that's both a good decision and also a bad decision, because to me, it was very, very good, to be clear. I thought it was the AI, the voice, the visuals of Luke were very, very good, but they still felt a little bit uncanny to me. And I wasn't totally comfortable with that. And it was just a little bit off-putting for me. Even though I really liked the episode overall.
I guess I was a little bit more comfortable with Luke's appearance. It didn't bother me as much, but his voice is bothering me a lot because knowing it's AI, and it lacks the expressiveness that
I didn't even. Yeah. It definitely. I think the voice. Obviously, this is groundbreaking technology, and the kinks have to be worked out of the system.
Absolutely. And by the way,
I just wish that they could. Just assuming that they're going to use this technology, all philosophical and possible moral objections, of which I have a few qualms, maybe not objections, but I have some qualms myself. All of the moral and philosophical, all of the should you aside, if we're just talking about the can you, I wish that they would have polished this up a little more, even though it is very impressive as it stands. Before they use it on someone as iconic and beloved as Luke Skywalker.
I can understand that.
Because
I just want to ask you, though.
And it irks me.
I just want to ask you, though. Most people, including myself, think that the Boba Fett Luke is better than the Mandalorian Luke. Do you agree with that?
It's been a while since I saw Luke in The Mandalorian. I didn't really follow all the discourse about that. The guy, the YouTube channel that was like, we made a better Luke, the different versions of Luke, the alleged Lucasfilm hirings. I don't know if that even happened or not.
That did.
Okay, that actually happened. Okay,
that actually did happen.
I haven't followed that closely enough. So I really didn't notice a big difference between the two. Granted, obviously I haven't watched the Mando finale recently, but there definitely were moments when I didn't like the final product in this episode. I think especially I think when it was static, when he was kind of sitting still, it was better. His hair, I thought, wasn't the most convincing. There was something a little bit off about that. Granted, that is obviously a big sticking point for a lot of these visual technologies over the years has been the hair. We know that to be the case. I think the biggest problem was when he put Grogu on his back and he took off running and he started climbing. A lot of that, for whatever reason, especially the climbing, it looked stilted. It didn't look quite right to me, and I'm not sure why that was. Maybe it was the way the camera was moving. Maybe it's not the CGI's fault, but for whatever reason, it didn't look natural to me.
Also, I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room because there's a big elephant in the room. When Mando is waiting for Luke and Grogu, he runs into who else but Ahsoka Tano. And we see Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker talk together.
Amazing.
That blew my mind. I knew we were going to get it someday. I did not expect it to be this soon.
Yeah, it is really heartwarming to see that, to know that Luke is learning about, from Luke's perspective, he's learning about his mom, he's learning about his dad before his dad became a evil Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And also from Ahsoka's perspective, that she gets to see her master's son, you know.
And she gets to see that Anakin, despite all of his terrible things he's done, has actually managed to leave some good in the galaxy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, when Ahsoka says to Luke, "So much like your father," I melted inside. Basically,
I know. That was a great moment. That was a really great moment.
But I want to just jump quickly before we go to the Clone Wars to that final scene where Luke is offering Grogu a choice: the armor or the lightsaber. What do you think he's going to choose? Because I know what I think he's going to choose.
I have no idea what he's going to choose. I honestly think it could go either way. I think there's a strong case to be made for both ways. But if we know anything about Star Wars at this point, especially Disney Star Wars, it's that they love to throw us for a loop. And so trying to infer from the future based on maybe where Baby Yoda isn't where we think he might be, I don't think that's a fruitful. I mean, what do you think, though?
I'm not judging it based on where Grogu would be in the future. I'm judging it based on where Star Wars stories generally like to go and where it would make the most sense for the story to go. And based on that, I cannot see him choosing the lightsaber. I can only see him choosing the armor. Because him picking the lightsaber would be a really odd decision that they would need to explain story-wise. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm saying the armor is a more natural place to go based on the story that's built up already. And the armor, brings, what that probably means is it brings Grogu back to Din on Tatooine, brings Luke to Tatooine. Maybe Luke helps Boba in some way. Maybe Grogu and Din help. Maybe Grogu helps Boba in some way in his struggle against the Pykes. Because here's my thing: if he chooses the lightsaber, he stays on whatever planet that is, storyline wrapped. And why did we even go to Grogu in the first place? Yeah. But if he chooses the armor, then he ties into the plot in a way that's more natural. That's at least my thinking.
Yeah. That is a good point. A couple more things before we move on. I know there's been a lot of discussion surrounding Cad Bane's appearance.
Yeah.
In Book of Boba. I know that there was the guy on YouTube's cinematic captures who
he fixed it.
Well, what's interesting actually is that he never claimed to have fixed it, and what's sad is that he received a lot of hate for putting forward an alternate version of it and never claiming that it was better.
Yeah, that was unfair. I shouldn't have said
I think
that.
just goes to show that people just need to whether they like it or not, whether they think it's good or not, everyone needs to just take a chill pill.
Absolutely.
Remember that we're all Star Wars fans. We're all just trying to have fun and come together around something. With that being said, what do you think? I'm interested to hear.
I didn't have much of a problem with it. What I always think is that the animation of Star Wars is a stylized thing, you know? It's one of those things where, you know, it's not a one-to-one comparison, because that's not fair. I mean, you know, it's easy as a Star Wars fan to ignore this because I'm so used to the animation, but Dooku looks strange, okay?
Yeah.
Dooku looks really strange. I mean, if Dooku looked anything like that in live action, that would be strange. And it's not that much of a differential between Cad Bane in animation and Cad Bane in live action as there is, say, between a Dooku character. And I think, like, you know, I think people need to calm down a lot, because I think it's just, like, it's not really that different, frankly.
It's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, I know a lot of people are making the comparisons of how different Dooku is, for example, how different, you know, Anakin, all these other characters are. But what I think people are missing in saying that, while it is a valid point, is that we're going in the other direction here, and that presents a unique opportunity to have a character who hews more so to what they looked like, how they originally looked like in animation, which I think would have been cool to see. I think for the skin color, that didn't bug me so much, you know, going from the dark blue to the light blue. Obviously, Cad Bane, he's got to be in his 70s.
I think
at this
late
point
60s,
in Boba Fett, late 60s. Like, we know that Duros, we know they lose pigment as they age. Also, he's clearly been walking around on Tatooine, so he's probably covered in dust.
Yeah.
Which can't help either. I think the thing that bugged a lot more people, and what bugs me just the tiniest bit, is the shape of the face and the mouth placement. I think that the mouth placement is a little bit strange at first. I think that I probably would have preferred had they gone for a little bit more of the Clone Wars look, you know, make the eyes a little bit less prominent and bulbous, put the mouth lower down. But ultimately, knowing that they wanted to not do a CGI Cad Bane, it kind of necessitates having the mouth farther up so that you can put someone behind there and have them be able to breathe.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm in the middle on this one. Like, I wish he had looked a little bit different, but his introduction was so good anyway.
Yeah, it's like
it's like, who cares?
Yeah,
like,
who cares? Yeah, we have Cad Bane in live action.
Yeah, it could have been different. Yeah, it could have been subjectively a little bit more enjoyable for some people, for me. But at the end of the day, like,
we have Cad Bane in live action, which is something that I will admit, I was a big doubter that was going to happen. I just didn't think that of all of the characters in animation, Cad Bane would be the one they would immediately jump to, but I was proven wrong here, and I'm honestly happy to be proven wrong, because I think that the way they introduced Cad Bane, the way they built all of that up, was very, very well done, and Dave Filoni is reaching his full potential, is my opinion.
Yes.
He's doing the things.
One thing though. Cad Bane says Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer. Yeah, it takes one to know one.
Yeah.
This is Cad Bane we're talking about. Like,
yeah, I know nobody knows who he is.
That. Yeah, nobody knows who he is.
And by the way, notice
he's definitely doing it. Sorry, go ahead.
Notice that he takes great lengths to make sure that nobody knows who he is. They keep asking him what his name is. And I think part of that's very intentional, because it's like, you know, if they know who Cad Bane is, then they know the atrocities Cad Bane has committed.
Yeah.
Which makes his idea of Boba Fett's a cold-blooded killer hold less weight, of course.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it doesn't matter. Clearly, Cad Bane isn't trying to moralize himself. It's honestly smart. He's just trying to sow the seeds of doubt.
Yeah. Which I think is going to backfire on him, actually.
Plant the seed of doubt. It is a bit of I just found it to be a bit of I guess a curb your atrocities moment, you might say, Yeah. I kind of went bum 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 that kind of meme after after he said that.
My favorite part is you've got you sticking your nose in the wrong place. And take it from me, a guy who has no nose.
Yeah, I mean, Cad Bane, like in the Clone Wars, he shoots someone, kills them so that he can take
their hat.
He can take their hat. Like,
my favorite part is the Corey Burton line delivery in that episode. What? It was a nice hat.
Yeah, that was a great episode. I love talking about that one as well.
On-cut.
I mean, yeah. And I want to get your opinion, Eli, on one other thing. I know we should probably be moving on sooner rather than later. But I feel comfortable talking about this episode a bit because this was a bombshell episode.
Hell yeah, it was.
I still don't feel comfortable with how Ahsoka is being represented in live action. I could rant about this for a long time.
Here we go.
I know I have a lot of feelings about this. I'm gonna keep this short. And disclaimer, I'm not talking about the appearance. I know the Montrals were shrunken for practicality, so I'm not like, oh, they're not long, they should be longer. I understand the reasoning. But surely if they made a whole CGI deepfake Luke, they could have CGI'd some headtails, but that's neither here nor there. My confusion is with the way Ahsoka is being brought to life. To me, it just doesn't feel like anyone in the writer's room, the director's chair, maybe Rosario Dawson, is making a consistent effort to have Ahsoka be somewhat in line with the versions of her we saw in the Clone Wars and Rebels. And I understand that it's a different actress. I understand that her voice is not going to sound the same. I understand that her mannerisms, the way she expresses herself, is not going to be exactly the same as it was in animation. But if you look at how other characters carry over through the years, you look at Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor, and then, or I guess backwards from that, Alec Guinness to Ewan McGregor, like something like that. It feels much more similar. Something like that does than Ahsoka does to me. I feel like just her mannerisms, the facial expressions, the intonations, the cadence, the timbre of her voice, none of it just doesn't feel like Ahsoka to me, and it's weird, and I'm mystified why more people aren't talking about it. Maybe it just really bugs me for some reason. But granted, it has been 10 years since we saw Ahsoka in Rebels, but I feel like she's just
10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
No, wait, I don't think it's
one BBY. One BBY 980.
Oh, in universe. Oh, okay.
In universe.
I'm like, Rebels was really that long ago?
No. If Rebels was that long ago, I would be gobsmacked. Has been over 5 years though since Rogue One. Let that one sink in. That one hit me hard. I didn't quite know what to make of that one. It feels like yesterday I saw it with you for the first time.
Oh yeah.
But Ahsoka just doesn't, like, her feel as a character isn't similar. She doesn't have, I don't know. It doesn't feel like she has the same benevolent air, I guess. And the fact that it's a different actor, I think shouldn't really be a valid excuse. Obviously, there being plenty of examples, Ewan McGregor, JIT for Obi-Wan, Ian McDiarmid, and Ian Abercrombie for Palpatine. So I guess my main concern is just why doesn't she sound a little more like Ahsoka with how she talks?
I understand that. Not sure I agree, but I understand. Anyway,
what would your take be? Do you not mind?
I don't really mind. I think that the portrayal of Ahsoka, the writing of Ahsoka, is pretty good, and I think ultimately she's been in like parts of 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah,
I don't think
she's got time to breathe. Like
I think it's a little, at least for me, a little too early to judge exactly how good Ahsoka is right now based on parts of 2 episodes. But
I think when we get the Ahsoka show,
yeah, then we'll be really able to put
we'll
it.
get more room. We'll get more of her in the forefront. Maybe I'll come around. I hope I'll come around because
anyway,
I really like Ahsoka and I wanna enjoy her portrayal.
But let's get back to the Clone Wars.
Yes.
Let's
take it back.
Let's take it back. Let's take it back.
In the Lost Ones, Plo Koon finds the shuttle belonging to the late Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, discovered crashed on the moon of the Pike homeworld of Obadiah. The Jedi launch into their investigation, their revamped investigation of the death of Master Sifo-Dyas. Unfortunately, we find that the office of the Chancellor has locked information about Sifo-Dyas' death. So Yoda tries to talk to Chancellor Palpatine, who directs him to ex-Chancellor Valorum. They talk to ex-Chancellor Valorum, and Anakin and Obi-Wan journey to the Pike homeworld of Obadiah, where the Pykes have imprisoned Chancellor Valorum's personal aide, who was in the crash. Then, of course, Dooku shows up, ties up the loose end by killing the personal aide before he can give the Jedi information. A crazy duel ensues. And then they report back to the Jedi Council, who are closer than ever to putting together this huge mystery. But of course, the plans are already in motion, and it is far, far too late.
Absolutely. Our fortune cookie is what is lost is often found.
I think this is a great fortune cookie, not so much because of its message, because it has some, in my opinion, some special insight into the episode, but because it's such a good description of how a lot of these later Clone Wars episodes play out, with Ahsoka, to a greater extent, the Fives arc, and of course, with this episode, with the Lost One, we see over and over again the clones and the Jedi, specifically the Jedi, getting so close to uncovering the mystery, uncovering the plot to destroy the Republic, only it's too late, or they stop just short of actually figuring out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I like the fortune cookie as well. I also thought of this. This is funny. It looks like a truism at first, but the deeper you dive into it, the more you get out of it. My favorite little thing I thought about: what is lost is often found. Well, you know what was something that was lost but then later found? Season 6 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. And I really love that little development where it's a self-referential thing. I think that's really cool. And yeah, I also think, it's this episode and this arc are a lot about finding things not only literally but metaphorically that are lost. Finding things that are lost in I talked about, I think this was it's either this episode or next episode, I think, about how this arc seems like an apology from the characters on the way they've acted in seasons 1 through 5.
That is a very good way to describe it, especially for Yoda, as I think we will get to.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent way to describe it.
It feels like Yoda's starting to come around. Mace Windu, especially in the disappeared stuff, a little bit, but Yoda definitely in this, where it feels like they're starting to realize the error of their ways, just not fast enough, and then they regress in time for Revenge of the Sith to come.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what a lot of the Lost missions and late season 5 feels to me. It feels like all these characters coming so close to enlightenment, to finding the error in their ways, fixing it for the better, and then they just don't.
Yeah.
They just don't. That's how a lot of this feels to me.
They just fail to do that. Yeah. Let's see.
Do we want to talk about this opening I think this opening scene is awesome. It feels
great.
like the Star Wars version of going down to the bottom of the iceberg meme. I love how the armor of the clones is evolving. Everything is spot on. The music is absolutely chilling. It's incredible.
Yeah. And like, there's a specific shot, and I think it's maybe my favorite shot, maybe of this entire arc, possibly. And it's Plo Koon digging up Sifo-Dyas' lightsaber and picking it up and igniting it. And I was thinking about the metaphorical significance of this moment, and it goes back to what I was talking about the Jedi are very hesitant to acknowledge their past. But
despite being so deeply rooted in tradition, kind of paradox.
But Plo Koon is not only acknowledging the past. No. He's looking for it. He's searching for it. He's actively seeking it out. And this is actually when I was talking about this in my notes. This was when I was talking about the whole apology idea, where the Jedi are starting to realize that maybe some of the things they've been doing throughout this war haven't actually been helping them. Now, of course, the tragedy of this is they don't realize it they don't realize it quickly enough, and they don't realize it well enough. But that doesn't mean they don't realize it at a certain point.
Yeah, and they really do realize it, especially with the plot. They're God, shit gets crazy in this arc. It's crazy. Watching this arc, you realize, wow, the Jedi really realized that they're up. They really realized that they're up shit creek without a paddle. They have to stay the course because they don't have another option, and they don't actually know who the Sith Lord is.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And there's this line at the end of the episode that perfectly does this for me. There's a few lines, that ending council scene, just to jump ahead a little bit. I think Yoda says, and our enemy created an army for us. And then Mace Windu asks him, are you sure we are taking the right path? And Yoda says, the right path, no. The only path, yes. And this is where they get it wrong. This is where they get it crucially wrong at the wrong moment. Because Yoda doesn't realize that they actually do have other options.
Yeah. But that hits the nail on the head right there. That is exactly what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
They know something's up, but they don't really. It's too late, basically. They're too far gone.
Yeah, this is the tragedy I really like, and I this hits me a little bit more personally. I love Siege and I love Revenge of the Sith, and I love all of the tragedy that plays out in Siege of Mandalore and Revenge of the Sith. But I think this tragedy is a bit more poignant to me because the characters almost realize that the tragedy is about to happen.
Yeah, I think that is what is so tragic about the later episodes of. That's what's so tragic to me about season 5, season 6, the Siege arc of the Clone Wars is watching Attack of the Clones and then watching Revenge of the Sith. It's just no. It's like watching a car crash. Watching season 5, season 6, season 7 of the Clone Wars. That's like watching the car crash in slow motion 10 times over with in-depth analysis of every single mistake the driver made.
And the engineers made.
Every single mistake the drivers made, the engineers of the car made, the cars around it made, every single little decision, every single little happening by chance that led up to this car crashing.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
It's a great analogy, and I agree with that. And
I apologize if that was too morbid, but that is what it feels like to me.
You know what?
Let's just say it was a car crash where no one was injured. Let's just say that.
But anyway, though I don't know, Order 66. Let's anyway. Yeah. So let's see. And there's that line after they take the stuff back to Coruscant. They're having a council meeting, and and they're acknowledging one of their mistakes, and Obi-Wan goes, well, it's not it's not the first time we've been wrong recently, is it? And I'm like, that is a throwaway line, but that is a crazy throwaway line.
Is it a throwaway line, though? Like, more than you know, Obi-Wan. So much more than you know. It's, that hits. That one hits.
Yeah, and I, Ahsoka's trial, I think, maybe was what they were referring to, was what he was referring to, at least, but, it's the tragedy of this arc playing out but the beauty in it is so crazy to see. There's one question I have just for this general arc, and this is the only problem I have with this arc. Literally the only problem. No one has anything better to do?
What do you mean by this?
I mean, Yoda's the Grand Master of the freaking Jedi Order, but he goes on a spirit journey to find out how to cheat death for 3 episodes because Qui-Gon spoke to him.
I mean, that's kind of a perfect description of the problem the Jedi face, which is they're kind of this mystical, mysterious organization, and they kind of have to be able to do whatever they want. But they have also, through centuries, millennia at that point, of political maneuvering and tradition, they have roped themselves into basically being police and detectives and SEAL teams and the Coast Guard and forensic scientists, like doing everything for the Republic. They basically are at the Republic's beck and call. And that is kind of the tension that I think you pointed out.
Yeah, but it annoys me all the time where, they're placing like Mace Windu and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Anakin, there seem to be just available on speed dial for everything.
Yeah.
When it's just like, there's a war! I mean, come on, fight the war!
Yeah, it feels a little bit like, what if the White House chef called up the president and was like, hey, Mr. President, would you mind running out and getting me some eggs? We ran out,
Yeah.
But that's a good metaphor.
Like. Yeah. No, yeah, and it's like, like Yoda and Mace Windu call upon the galaxy's favorite pair of troublemakers, Anakin and Obi-Wan, to go to Felucia and investigate this out. Because apparently when the Jedi want anything done, they just turn to Anakin and Obi-Wan. But, like, they're battlefield generals. They're revered battlefield generals. You're telling me that Dooku is not scheming or plotting anything at the moment that needs their attention. Frankly, you could say the same thing about actually, that's the funny part. You could say the same thing about Dooku, frankly. Like, he has time, apparently, to just waltz on over to Obadiah, conveniently kill Silman and a bunch of the Pykes, and just leave. Like, he's not, like, the leader of a separatist movement.
Okay, but to be fair, they do acknowledge this in the episode where
sometimes things are just that important.
And that is that was one of my favorite moments. I thought that was an amazing one-liner. Sometimes, I'm going to say it too because I love it so much. Yeah. Things are just that important. Like,
yeah, it's great.
Man, what a line. Like, Dooku knows. He knows that he has henchmen all over the galaxy doing his dirty deeds. But he also knows that he can pull up like a total badass and just wreck everyone, and like he can just throw it down whenever he wants.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love Dooku in this episode. But going back to after the aftermath of the discovery, how does the Chancellor's office have the authority to lock Jedi records? That's what I'm saying when I think that the Jedi made a mistake by being too closely intertwined with the Republic. Although it's a hard thing to resist doing, I can imagine.
I want to talk specifically about Sidious and Dooku for a second.
Oh yes, their interaction is
great. First of all,
Crazy.
Nobody likes to point with this about Sidious, but this is Sidious is crazy. Let's acknowledge that that Dooku, takes on Anakin and Obi-Wan and, just stalemates them this episode, okay?
Yeah.
And then let's talk about how Sidious force chokes him from halfway across the galaxy.
It's amazing. And even before that, that is obviously the crowning moment. It's incredible. It's after an entire show of building up Dooku to be so powerful, and there's only a few moments ever in the show. I think maybe the Ventress moment is the only moment before this where we actually see Sidious kind of forcing Dooku to bend to his will and do something he doesn't want to do. To just have him be like, eliminate them. Like, man, whenever Palpatine tells Dooku to eliminate something or someone, that's when you know it's about to get real.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I do have one more logistical question about this episode that I'm really annoyed about.
All right.
Why do Dooku and Sidious not seem to know who Sifo-Dyas is?
Yeah, I mean...
they should know that. I mean, at least Dooku should know that. I mean, Dooku killed the guy, and I think they were close as, fellow apprentices.
Yeah. It's interesting, for sure. I don't know.
It's really strange. Also, I
guess if you're someone like Sidious, I mean... He's probably a pretty busy guy. That's all
I understand, but this is your master plan we're talking about.
I know. Yeah. No. I joke. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right. I mean, yeah, that one might have slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
also, by the way, speaking of other things, what is it with Palpatine and pronunciation? Did you catch the pronunciation thing?
I did not.
Oh, that has to be addressed by my predecessor, Chancellor Valorum.
Yeah.
He says he was Valorum.
Palpatine was peak Palpatine in this episode, because right before he turns around and goes full Dark Lord mode on Dooku and force chokes him, he does the best job ever of stonewalling Yoda. The fact that he pretends to forget who Sifo-Dyas is, he's like, whoever this Jedi is, this... And he lets Yoda finish.
Well, it's not that he's pretending to forget who Sifo-Dyas is.
I think he is.
Because then he calls Dooku and he says, "What do the Jedi want with this Sifo-Dyas?" Intimating that he does not know who Sifo-Dyas is.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe he actually doesn't. But in either way, he does such a good job of knowing that he knows.
He knows it's important, but he doesn't know.
He knows. The Jedi are sniffing around. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe right, Eli. I think you may be right if I didn't pick that up. The Jedi are sniffing around, and we don't want the Jedi to be sniffing around. He does such a good job of. He's like, oh well, I can't help you. You're gonna have to go to Valorum's office. What are the odds that Valorum actually lock those records? I don't know. I mean, with the knowledge that, with the possibility that Palpatine actually didn't know, and it was all he just kind of told Dooku to go do it.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Maybe it is an actual. Maybe there is an actual misstep in this episode with him insinuating that he doesn't know who Sifo-Dyas is when he's talking to Dooku, because then he says he goes on to say, like, this is really important and this is a shock. He basically says, Dooku, I'm shocked by this oversight. I'm shocked that you couldn't cover this up better. So,
but why would we, why would he be shocked if he didn't know who this guy was?
Yeah, maybe it's just a little bit of a miscue from that line.
We could also say, like, again, this is just overcorrecting things. So you could also go, like, I can imagine Palpatine going, so Dooku, this Sifo-Dyas guy, remember him?
Yeah, maybe he's being sarcastic. Maybe he's being like,
this Sifo-Dyas.
Ring a bell?
Ring a bell, man? What's going on with him? You remember that? Yeah, you remember. Also, by the way, my favorite, this is another funny part of this episode. when Minister Lom Pike says to Obi-Wan, "I cannot remember the last time we had a Jedi here," and then spice just snorts out of his nose. I'm like,
yeah,
I think that explains itself, frankly.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to the Obadiah scenes?
I feel like I was kind of already there, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I'm just making sure because
yeah.
right.
Let's see.
So the Obadiah scenes, Obadiah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think
I say Obadiah, but everybody says Obadiah in the episode. I don't care.
I don't think there's really an established right or wrong in this case. The Pykes Palace is awesome. I think the visuals are so cool.
Here's something that's going to shock you, actually. I looked this up. I did my research on this. This is the Pykes' 10th year in existence.
What?
They've only been around for 10 years in the Star Wars universe.
Hold on. The Pykes Syndicate.
The Pykes Syndicate.
Okay, I can only assume then that the Pykes Syndicate is like the, what's Maul's group called?
Crimson Dawn.
The Crimson Dawn. Wait, what's the Shadow Collective then? I thought
that's his super group of. That's his conglomerate that he forms to take over Mandalore.
So the Crimson Dawn is his
crime syndicate that he does in Solo.
Oh, the Shadow Collective. So the Crimson Dawn comes after the Shadow Collective. The Shadow Collective is him bringing together like the Pykes and the Black Sun and that stuff.
Yeah.
And the Black Sun is Prince Shizor's group in Legends.
The Faline, right? Yeah.
The Faline, yeah. Okay, cool.
I think Shizor's canon actually now.
Really? He's canon now. Wow.
There's a reference to him in some book, I think.
Oh, they've thought of everything. Wow. Just making sure I have my crime family straight because I can only assume that this is some kind of Shadow Collective. I can only assume that the Pike Syndicate is a super group in and of itself if it's only been around for 10 years. Because the way they're talked about and the way they're portrayed throughout Star Wars is that they're so powerful and that they kind of have their hand in every cookie jar.
Yeah, for me, it's crazy because I think of the Pykes as the number 2 crime syndicate in the galaxy, behind the Hutts.
Yeah.
The Hutts have been around since 1983. The Pykes have been around since 2012.
Are you talking about out universe?
No, yeah, out of universe. I'm talking about out of universe.
Oh! I thought you meant in universe. The Pykes had only
No. Out of universe. I meant out of universe. The Pike Syndicate has only been in Star Wars content for 10 years, which is actually pretty crazy.
From 2012.
2012.
That's really interesting to me because they have a few parts in the Clone Wars, but it's interesting that in Boba Fett, in Book of Boba, in Solo, they're kind of starting to pick up with the Pike content, and it's exciting to me.
In Clone Wars, in Bad Batch?
Yeah, they're bringing. I think it's very exciting that they're kind of bringing more of the stuff that started in animation, and bringing that in, and giving more people reasons to go back.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I just find it like nuts because they had 29 extra years to develop the Hutts as the number 1.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years, they go from animation to multiple live action things. Not just one, multiple.
Maybe the Hutts need some more on-screen canon love. Maybe the Hutts need some more love because, yes, they get a lot of love already.
And the twins.
We see individual Hutts, but I feel like we already, in 10 years, at least in canon, we already on screen, at the least, disclaimer on screen, because I can't possibly know everything there is to know in Legends, in the comics, in everything that exists.
The expanded canon.
It's impossible to know. But we know a lot about individual Hutts. We don't know that much. And I think we know less about the Pykes, even in these 10 years that the Pykes have been around, about how the crime family actually works. Like, what are the politics? How does it really run? We know there's a Hutt council, and that's about it. Like, how many Hutts are there actually?
Yeah, we get a few glimpses of that in season 4 of the Clone Wars, 3 of the Clone Wars, but yeah, not enough.
I think the Hutts could really just benefit from, I don't know, just 1 or 2 focused hour-long episodes worth of world building. Like, if we just had 1 or 2 Book of Boba episodes, like, you had the Book of Boba episode 5, they're just like, okay, we're going to focus on Din Djarin. If they just had 1 or 2 of those episodes where they're just going to be like, okay, we're going to focus on the Hutts, I think that would be amazing, and I would do a lot for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe not in Book of Boba specifically, but I think that like Book of Boba style
not in Book of Boba
stuff,
specifically, obviously.
But
like, that kind of style.
No,
that kind of exposition heavy, but also still very interesting style.
Yeah. Do we want to end it here for?
I have maybe 10 more minutes, 10. Let's see.
No, I was gonna plan on ending in like 5 minutes. I'm saying like, do we want to end our talk on this episode here? Is what I was trying to say.
No, I have a little bit more to say. We got to talk about the duel.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep. The duel.
I hope you didn't forget the duel, Eli.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot to say about it, that's fine. But I want to
go ahead. Go ham on the duel.
Gush about this duel because at this point in the story, we get the scene with the aide. It's cool. He's I don't know.
Selman.
Star Wars Gollum. Anybody? Star Wars Gollum. Like I don't know. It's fine. But then Dooku comes in. Every moment that Dooku is in this episode, my hair stands on end. I get goosebumps. It is the most amazing thing ever. This made me so happy. It was just perfect the way they played Dooku in this episode. His entrance, that one-liner, sometimes things are just that important. And the duel. This duel is so underrated. It is so packed with symbolism. Now, feel free to jump in here and add your own spin at any time, Eli. I mean, because we got these 3 incredibly powerful, super skilled and trained Force users absolutely going at it. They're leaving nothing on the table. It almost, to me, upstages the duel in Revenge of the Sith with these 3. The choreography is so tight. I know that I had a problem with a lot of the duels in the early Clone Wars, but just the movement and the fluidity has gotten so much better. At first, I thought it was super robotic. At this point, it's just the perfect blend of, yes, it's stylized, but it also it moves so well and it's so smooth. It is absolutely mesmerizing.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I also think there was something else I was going to say. God darn it, I'm forgetting now. It was about Dooku, and it was about dueling, it was about... Oh, yeah, it was about this. So there's a funny, like, plot hole that people have been pointing out about the whole... My powers have doubled since the last time we met Dooku. And at the time, that was supposed to mean, my powers have doubled since we met on Geonosis Dooku. Yeah. But...
Now it means...
Since, like... 5 months ago.
Yeah, 5 months ago.
But I think actually that makes the scene better because it's like, we only fought 5 months ago, and in that time, my powers have doubled. And Dooku's like, listen here, you little shit.
yeah, it's excellent. And I think just the emotions and the symbolism of this duel are so amazing. This duel, the sense of urgency, to me is amazing. Obi-Wan doesn't have to go on the offensive, but he does. In this duel, we see Anakin starting to give into his rage just a little bit, getting just that extra bit of aggression over the line where you're saying, is this a Jedi? Even Obi-Wan, desperate to get to the bottom of this mystery, he's going hard, he's going aggressive. The opening stances, though, again, so representative. Obi-Wan holding his blade up and close to his body, very defensive. Anakin, his blade is down and held away from his body. He's ready to attack. Eli, I don't know if you noticed this moment for the Star Wars mobile gamers out there. This duel is where we get the animation for General Kenobi's mass assist ability.
Really? It leads the charge.
We see him do the lead the charge. We see him do a lead the charge, and it is incredible. This duel is just everything for me. I think we can even see here that even the great Obi-Wan Kenobi, master of Form 3, Surisu, master of the Force, even he, I think in this duel, is just slightly outmatched by Dooku, and we see that with him almost falling off. We see him get thrown off balance, and only Anakin, by his great power and also just by tapping into his rage and the dark side just a little bit too much, that's how Anakin is able to go toe to toe with Dooku.
Yeah,
and that is just perfect.
It's an incredible duel. I think the visuals on the passenger liner is like ridiculous. Like how they're just like how like Anakin jumps that huge distance with the help of Obi-Wan, and then they're just and then they're just flying through the air and dueling, and Dooku's pulling out all the stops, and so is Anakin. It's a crazy duel.
Yeah, and the best moment for me, maybe not the best moment, but it's such a good exit how Dooku, after he jumps onto his own ship, the
Solar Sailor.
His Solar Sailor. I was gonna say the soulless one, but no, that's
Punwarka
Grievous's.
114.
Is Punwarka 114? Yes, it's Punwarka 114. Eli, wow, coming through with all the trivia references today. Let's clap it up. Clap it up for Eli. The way he takes that extra second just to stand on the ramp and stare Anakin down instead of running in the door as the ship is flying away. Like the way it builds up their rivalry is incredible.
It's great. It's awesome. Yeah, I love this episode. It's funny because this is my least favorite episode before, which is not a criticism of this episode. It just means that it only gets better.
No, it's a testament to how freaking good this arc is.
Yeah.
How insanely, criminally underrated it is.
It's so criminally underrated.
In voices, Yoda begins hearing the voice of the long-lost Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. He is very perplexed by this, and it is very persistent. So eventually, after much consternation, he comes to the council, and they do a giant group meditation to look for Qui-Gon's spirit, essentially. They don't find anything. Yoda doesn't hear any more voices, and he decides to, or the Jedi doctors decide to put him into a sensory, which is essentially a sensory deprivation chamber, to allow him to go into an extremely deep meditative state where his body is on the verge of depth, but his mind can go deeper and deeper into meditation and into the cosmic force. This does not pan out, however, and Yoda is taken out of this state. He is placed in the Jedi infirmary. However, he recruits Anakin, of all people, to help him escape from the infirmary because Qui-Gon has told him that he needs to go to Dagobah, and he journeys to Dagobah.
Absolutely, he does. Our fortune cookie is madness can sometimes be the path to truth.
What do you make of this one? I didn't have a lot to...
I'm just gonna say it. This one does not work for me. There's
What
actually
do you
a
think
quote
doesn't
in
work about
the...
it?
There's an actual quote in the episode. I feel like it was... Where was it? It'll be later on. Oh, I found it. We'll talk about it later on. That actually makes a better fortune cookie than this fortune cookie. But yeah, I didn't really... I'm stuck on this one, honestly.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot to say about it. I think that it would be a bit weird to label what Yoda is experiencing as madness. Although I guess from an outside perspective, it could certainly look that way. So I don't know. Let's jump over that. Let's jump into this episode because this is a very juicy episode. And Eli, I expect that you are gonna have a lot to say because this type of episode, this force shit, as you would say, is right up your alley.
It is.
And I had a lot to say as well. So where do you wanna crack this one open?
I want to I want to talk about Force Ghost, because this is technically the first canonical appearance of the Force Ghost.
Really?
I mean, technically Qui-Gon speaks to Anakin through the Force as a Force Ghost in 2, and also he appears on Mortis, but, like, in terms of, like, the actual ability and the actual mechanics behind it, this is, like, the first.
In canon.
In canon, yeah.
In Legends, I assume there must have been a lot of
absolutely.
Force Ghost action. They wouldn't shy away from that in Legends.
In like Old Republic stuff. Yeah.
100%,
absolutely.
100%. For first canonical Force Ghost, Qui-Gon Jinn. But he can't actually appear because his training was incomplete. That's what he tells Yoda, right?
Yeah. And this is so I gotta say, the Force Ghost ability, in my opinion, is my favorite of the Force abilities.
How come?
Because every time there is a Force Ghost scene in Star Wars, for me, it is an automatic banger of a scene. Like, they just have the ability, for some reason, to make every scene better. Like, I was writing down in my notes all the Force Ghost scenes I was thinking of. When Ben tells Luke not to go rescue his friends in Empire. Banger scene.
Yeah.
Ben explaining Luke's turn... Ben explaining Anakin's turn to the dark side to Luke in Return of the Jedi. Banger scene. The three ghosts on Endor. Banger scene. Luke and Yoda, Last Jedi. Banger scene. Luke and Rey, Rise of Skywalker. Banger scene. Be With Me. Banger scene. All of these things are just, great scenes, and I love them so much. And I'm very interested in, looking at, even though Ben is dead, even though Luke is dead, even though Yoda is dead, they yet to still manage to impart some wisdom as much needed time to their friends and students. I think it's really cool.
I dig it a lot, and I like what you're saying here. I think you bring up some good points. I mean, yeah, Force Ghosts are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me in this first scene in the opening, when Yoda says, "On the precipice we are," that just hits me so hard, because the Jedi were anything but oblivious, especially these 4 episodes. It really changes the way we see Revenge of the Sith, because they were anything but oblivious to the fact that there was a plot, the fact that things were not as they seemed. Mace Windu is saying, "I feel the shadow of something greater." Like, they're so close. It's heartbreaking. They're so close, but it's just too late. And Palpatine's plans are just that well laid.
Yeah. I realized I should probably preface a lot of my notes, specifically with this episode, and I think next episode as well, by saying I'm going to be referencing one sequence from a Star Wars movie a lot in this episode. So I'm just going to put a heads up for all our listeners. I'm going to be mentioning the Dagobah sequence with Luke and Yoda from Empire Strikes Back a lot here.
I don't know you were going to say that.
Yeah, it's very potent, and it's very important for this sequence. But yeah, no, it's everything said in this arc. Like the richness of everything that's spoken in this arc is so great. The script writing is so interesting. I also really like, this is another thing, Yoda shouldn't be bad with the Force. He's not. He's an incredible Force wielder.
Yeah.
But I love seeing him struggle with the Force in this arc.
Yeah, that's something.
You can get as old as Yoda, as wise as Yoda, as powerful as Yoda, and yet you still have things to learn.
That's something that I really liked about these episodes, is we see Yoda from a different angle, especially in this episode, especially going forward, when he is actually grappling with the unknown and the edges of his wisdom. We see where even Yoda is outside of his comfort zone and is facing the unknown. And after seeing Yoda so much as kind of the all-knowing, old, wise, talking frog Jedi Master, it is a really compelling look, I think. at the character.
Yeah, there's that line that the Fourth Priestess tells Yoda in Destiny, the next episode, where she goes, "Deep down, you felt like we had nothing to teach you."
Yeah.
And Yoda's been teaching for so long, and I think he's forgotten how to learn, how to grow as a Jedi, because he's just never needed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a great juxtaposition and a little conundrum that we put Yoda in this arc. Can I go talk about the garden?
Yeah, let's talk about
the Jedi Garden gets a lot of emphasis in this arc. I don't know if you realize this, but we see it 3 times in this arc.
Yeah, I think the Jedi Garden, it kind of represents, at least here to Yoda, what the Jedi Order should be, or how it is.
I was saying
normally, the tranquility.
I wrote down in my notes purity. This is the Jedi Order at its purest. This is the Jedi Order. This is what they should be. This is what they strive to be. Again, remember, does anything significant, does anything like bureaucratic or political happen in the garden? No. Where does it all happen? In the physical, human-constructed buildings.
Yeah. It's happened in the tower, in the spire.
In the tower, the spire. This is something that Dave Filoni's Star Wars does a lot, where the Force is often connected to nature. There's a big focus on the Force and the natural world. We see this. One of the examples I'm thinking of is the Star Wars Rebels episode, The Call, where Ezra is connecting with the Force through nature. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is one of those episodes where they really go into this arc, they really go into the concept of the living Force.
Yeah.
And they talk about not just the Force, but they split it into the unifying Force and the living Force and how
cosmic Force.
Sorry, the cosmic Force and the I think the unifying Force is the
I think the unifying Force is Legends. Yeah.
I think the unifying Force is kind of the Legends version of the cosmic Force. Although I think during one of our trivia things, maybe I had a question that had them separate. So I don't know. I'd have to research that one.
Yeah.
Cosmic Force, as a name, I like it better. I think it sounds better. It makes a lot more sense. Like thinking about the Cosmic Force, it's easier to wrap your head around it.
Yeah. The unifying Force sounds a bit dumb, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds like it gets the point across. But let's be honest, like a lot of things in Legends, is it cool? Sure. Does it sound a little bit silly? Maybe a little bit dumb? Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Legends, the thing about Legends is often they have no limits, so they don't know where to stop. Canon, say what you want about canon, they know where to stop.
Yeah, they do know where to stop.
There's a quote I wanted to mention. Yoda's talking with, I think, Mace Windu, and Mace Windu tells him, everything that we know about the Force tells us that an individual retaining their identity after death is impossible. And Yoda says back, everything that we know, yes. But what about what we know not?
That's such a huge moment for Yoda there.
That
is such a huge moment.
To connect it to Dagobah. Luke tries to lift the X-Wing. Doesn't happen. Yoda, he starts to walk away. Yoda lifts the X-Wing effortlessly. What does Luke say back? I don't believe it. Yoda replies, that is why you fail.
Wow.
The Force
amazing connection.
The Force is about believing. The Force is about, with the Force, nothing's impossible. And, I like the idea I like the ideas that the episode is talking about belief and how belief goes a long way in accomplishment.
Yeah. I love that moment for Yoda. You're saying, when he says, what about what we do not know? Because again, that's Yoda confronting what his position as the Grand Master of the Jedi Order has kind of led him away from, which is embracing the fact that at its essence, the Force is kind of a wonderful mystery.
Yeah.
And it's embracing the unknown, embracing the fact that the Jedi don't know everything and that the Jedi doctrine doesn't know everything, which goes 100% against where the Jedi Order is at this moment, where it's steeped in tradition. It's super stuffy.
You just reminded me of another quote from everybody's favorite Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, when Luke is training with Rey, and this is a line I go back to all of the time with the Force. And Luke says to Rey, "To say that the Jedi control the Force is vanity. Can you feel that?" The Jedi are starting to realize that they don't know everything about the Force, and that that's not a bad thing.
And I think that this is the moment when Yoda transcends kind of. This is the moment when Yoda is able to transcend the old Jedi Order and kind of just manage to stay clear of it going down in flames, because he is able to realize to some extent the limitations of the Jedi Order. He's able to realize, as he gets out of the bureaucracy for a little bit.
Yeah.
He's able to realize just kind of just how much he doesn't know. But more importantly, that's okay. That maybe Qui-Gon really is talking to him, even though the Jedi say that's impossible, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about something. This is maybe my favorite thing from this episode. We get my favorite version of Yoda in this episode. Mischievous Gremlin Yoda.
Yes, I love Mischievous Gremlin Yoda.
Mischievous Gremlin Yoda is the shit, man.
Yoda,
you seek Yoda. Take it to him, I will.
It's incredible. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about the group meditation scene.
Yeah.
For a little bit, because this moment, like many others, I know I harp about goosebumps for these episodes, but like many other moments, this gave me goosebumps. I don't know about you, man. Something about it was so, I don't know what the word, bittersweet almost. It really reminded me, like so many things did in this arc, of Rebels. I guess even though this came first, watching this later on, you see how Rebels in so many ways pays homage to these episodes. But I digress. So many powerful Jedi coming together around Yoda. The way that they put their hands on each other's shoulders, that to me, it felt so emotional, because this is the Jedi Order. Everyone is cool and calm and detached, and no one has any attachments, but here they are coming together to help Yoda, not just as a Jedi, but I think as a friend. And the way that they're kind of breaking a little bit of that sense of decorum to do so is really bittersweet to me.
Do you want to get to this sensory deprivation chamber?
Yes, absolutely.
Which, by the way,
very interested to hear your take.
Is so stupid, but is so awesome at the same time. This is the worst idea the Jedi Council, and Yoda has. They bring the what they call it, inches from death. They bring the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. If anything happened, if they messed up somehow, anyhow, they might have just killed Yoda.
Yeah. It's a surprisingly high stakes scenario for the way that it's played it off.
What I like most about the sensory deprivation chamber is that Yoda gets the vision of Qui-Gon literally going, "Nope, this is not the way, buddy. Good try, but try again. Don't do this. This is not how you're supposed to do it. I see where you're going with this. Nice try. Try another way."
Yeah. And I mean, I think it is also indicative of where the Jedi are at this time, where instead of saying, okay, we're going to give Yoda space, just try and be in tune with the living force, be in tune with the cosmic force, they're saying, nope, we got to hurry this process along. So we're going to force it by putting it in a tank and using technology
Yeah.
to try and get results in this living energy field, which I think is the obviously the wrong way to go about it, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. Um, can we talk about mischievous Gremlin Yoda? Mischievous Gremlin Yoda is the best Yoda.
Yes.
When he's
So he's in the
cheeky,
infirmary.
yeah, when he's cheeky with Anakin and all that kind of, disobeying the council, your expertise is. Help me,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, I mean the whole scene, the whole part with Yoda and Anakin, to me it's so heartwarming
It
and
is.
also so heartbreaking at the same time, because when
Yes.
Yoda says that, he says disobeying orders your specialty is, oh, disobeying the council your specialty is, we really see with the way that Yoda has so much love and respect and trust for Anakin, but it almost never gets expressed. And especially the fact that we see that Yoda admires Anakin and likes him in spite of his flaws and in spite of his friction with the council. And it's really a shame that that never gets expressed, because obviously maybe if Anakin felt more appreciated, maybe if that had been more clear, the appreciation that people still had for him, maybe
Yeah.
things would have gone a little differently.
Yoda is very distant, which is, I think, a big problem with him.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I love cheeky Yoda.
Yeah, cheeky Yoda is this prime
Yoda
Yoda.
Yoda puts so much weight on his shoulders, especially in the Clone Wars, that it is so refreshing to see him having fun with life.
That's why Ambush is so fun, because it's
Yeah,
mostly
that's why
cheeky
Ambush is so
Yoda.
fun. He's just being cheeky.
He's
He's
just
toying with his last Ventress. He's like,
he's just he's just doing things because he wants to the entire time.
yeah,
And frankly, I love my favorite thing is Yoda and R2D2's interactions in this arc, because they're the two cheekiest motherfuckers when they want to be. Like they
oh
can
my god,
totally
yeah,
be. By the way, I realized something. So R2 accompanies Yoda to Dagobah, which means when Luke goes to visit Yoda on Dagobah, R2 totally knew where he was going the entire time and just didn't tell him anything to be an asshole.
yeah. No, R2 is the real master of trolling. Move over, Kenobi.
I love that so much. I just realized that one. Oh, it's
Yeah, no.
great.
I know there's so many tie-ins here. You
Yeah.
gotta love it.
Yeah. By the way, I want to give myself a little bit of credit, give myself a little pat on the back. I described in my notes the Jedi Garden as pure, and when Qui-Gon talks about Dagobah to Yoda, he says it's one of the purest places in the galaxy. And why is that? Of course, because there's almost no technology, and it's all natural. It's all nature. This is something that I talked to you about earlier, and that we gotta talk about this because it's crazy. Okay. Qui-Gon was dead to begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burials was signed by Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi, the Chancellor, and the Republic. Palpatine signed it, and Palpatine's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Qui-Gon Jinn was dead as a doornail. If people are not familiar with that, it is an adaptation of the opening words of Charles Dickens' classic A Christmas Carol. This arc, specifically voices and quite a bit of destiny, is A Christmas Carol. Yoda is Ebenezer Scrooge, and this is him visiting the ghosts of his Christmas, I'm saying in quotation marks, past, present, and yet to come or future. And the evidence I have for this later on, and like the metaphorical stuff, is like crazy, and I love it so much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's weird also because I actually don't like the story of A Christmas Carol like that much at all. But I'm like, you can't. I'm like, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So I'm like, oh, this is good. Speaking of, by the way, Qui-Gon Jinn, let's take our hats off to Liam Neeson, who kills it as Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, knockdown performance.
Kills
Absolutely
it.
Amazing.
This could have been completely cheesy, but like, it wasn't. And yeah.
No, it absolutely wasn't. Yeah, no, it was great. It was amazing. Yeah. Do we want to get on to the arrival?
Sure.
On Dagobah, or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
one thing that sticks out to me immediately, obviously, Yoda telling R2 to stay with the ship.
Yeah.
It's like poetry, you know, it rhymes.
It rhymes, yeah. Though,
Every
when does
stanza.
R2 not stay with the ship at this
I know.
point?
When does R2 not stay with the ship? Secondly,
what I
watching this episode,
this is what I want R2 to do in like episode, if they ever make an episode 10 or something like that. I want the protagonist of episode 10 to say R2, and then he beefs back, stay with the ship.
yeah, that'd be amazing. I would love that. They'll just be like, you know the drill, R2.
You know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel bad for R2. He just gets put on valet duty all the time.
He
So
does.
unfair for him. But this episode really made me realize in Rebels how much of Ezra's journey in Rebels, in regards to the Force, is kind of an homage to Yoda's journey. You know, Ezra in the Jedi Temple on Lothal in season 1, creating his lightsaber, where he's following the light. Yoda also following the light here. That's a recurring motif throughout these episodes. Yoda's theme as well in this, it just gives me goosebumps.
It gives me goosebumps every single time, and it's great.
It's amazing. Can we talk about, though, the possible biblical reference in this episode? The way all the glimmering lights just happen to land on the bush. What a coincidence.
Wow, that's good.
A coincidence.
That's really good. I did not notice that. That's really good.
Yeah, that can't be by accident. That's an interesting choice.
That's good. I really like that. Here's our fortune cookie for this episode. Here's the real fortune cookie. Yoda asks Qui-Gon if there's any hope, and Qui-Gon answers, "There's always hope, my friend, though it often comes in forms not looked for." That's a better fortune cookie. That's just a better fortune cookie. Like, you know, like I'm thinking of like the Skywalker twins, you know. That's hope in forms that is not that is not often looked for, you know. It's a major theme in the Rebellion era. Ahsoka Tano, the Bad Batch, Cal Kestis, Agent Kallus, Han Solo, all examples in the Rebellion era, which we're quickly approaching, of hope that comes in forms often not looked for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wrote this too, and I think this is really cool. This arc does a really great job in bringing original trilogy motifs into prequel trilogy context. Like, we start to see how the original trilogy era could be possible. It could happen, which I like.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of the way that they execute in this episode. This episode especially, my goodness, what a beautiful episode. This is Qui-Gon's speech is amazing, and what he says is just so true. But that's about all I've got for this episode. So I'm ready to wrap it up.
Yeah,
for this one, unless you have more to say. A very, very interesting detail that is actually acknowledged by the official Star Wars website, which makes it especially interesting to me. During the communal meditation scene, the High Council spire is set in the central, or the High Council chamber is set in the central spire of the Jedi Temple, as opposed to in some other Clone Wars episodes, not all other Clone Wars episodes, but some other Clone Wars episodes that have the temple, and the Phantom Menace, where the council is actually in one of the four outer corner spires.
Really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Also, the design of the Jedi Doctor Rig Nima, who's tasked with examining Yoda and putting him in the deprivation chamber, is based on early concept art of Mace Windu, the
Interesting.
Phantom Menace. Also, Yoda's vision shows Shaak Ti dying to Anakin's blade. However, this scene was actually cut after being shot. It was cut from Revenge of the Sith. Just one of the several times that Shaak Ti is killed in Star Wars.
Yeah, I was about to say, doesn't she have 3 different death scenes?
Yeah, she does have 3 different death scenes. She gets executed by Grievous. She's killed by Anakin, and I can't remember what the third one is.
In Destiny, Yoda and R2-D2 travel to, according to Qui-Gon, the place where life could have arisen. Yoda is greeted by a Force priestess, who is one of 5 who symbolizes all of the emotions inside of a human being, inside of someone with the Force. And they take him through some tests. He's given 3 tests. He is confronted with a dark side shadow of himself, and he has to overcome that shadow and vanquish his own dark side. He sees the dead bodies of Mace Windu, Petro, and a dying Ahsoka Tano, who confront him about all of his failures. But then he is brought into an alternate reality where the Clone Wars never happened, but he has to see through that. And finally, he passes all of them, but he wants to see the true face of the Force priestesses. And they take off their masks to show that they're all dead. They're all beings who have transcended into the cosmic force. And they tell Yoda through a spirit that his final test awaits him on the ancient Sith planet of Moraband. Our fortune cookie is, death is just the beginning.
I mean, well said. That is truly the Jedi way.
Oh, I was gonna say, I wrote down, Jacob, what do all these characters have in common? Palpatine, Maul, Boba Fett, Echo, Trench, Ahsoka Tano, Maximilian Veers.
Okay, Veers throws me for a loop, but I'm still gonna go with you thought I was dead. Psych, I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, explain the Veers one to me, because now you've piqued my curiosity.
There was some
you can't just drop
there was
that
some
on me
conflicting
like
information as to whether Veers died when Hobby's snowspeeder crashed into his AT-AT. In some version he did, in some version he didn't. In canon, the answer is is that Veers did not die. So, but
Corpse. You gotta bring him back somehow.
But yeah, like, and there's and Star Wars loves more than anything bringing characters back from the dead, which is actually a trend I'm really hoping they get rid of pretty soon because it's getting kind of boring, honestly.
Yeah. There's only so many times you can, like, psych.
Yeah. Most of those examples, honestly, are ones I don't like. I mean, Palpatine's a big exception. Ahsoka's a big exception. Boba actually has become a big exception. But I didn't like Maul, really. I haven't seen anything that's convinced me about Echo yet. Trench was awkward. Yeah. Yeah. I was also thinking about, like, witnessing death, As awful as it was, learning of his aunt and uncle's murder gave Luke a new beginning.
Yeah.
Same thing about Ezra, same thing about Rey. Same thing, in a less positive way, about Anakin and his mother.
Once again, like you said last episode, Eli, a mischievous gremlin Yoda is the best version of Yoda. I love how calm and happy Yoda is when his ship is being taken over as he's flying into this nebula. I think
he's just like, cool.
It's just so indicative of who he is as a person when he doesn't have all the pressure of the Jedi and the Republic and the war all on his shoulders. It's so bittersweet, but it is also nice to be able to see him find some joy for a character that is so somber
And also, it starts to help bridge us to who Yoda is in The Empire Strikes Back as well,
Yeah,
where he is
absolutely.
definitely a lot less serious, let's just say.
Did you notice that Yoda gave his lightsaber to R2D2 before he stepped out onto the world, and he said, "Need this, I will not.
Yeah,
Your weapons, need them, you will not."
yeah.
From Empire
So
Strikes
many
Back on
parallels.
Dagobah, yeah. Um,
So
I
many
want to
parallels.
jump
Awesome.
into something else, which is really strange. I don't know if you realize this, okay? Let me talk about Star Wars The Clone Wars, Destiny, and Disney Pixar's Inside Out.
Mm.
So, let me talk. So Star Wars The Clone Wars gives us Force Priestesses that takes the form of 5 different emotions: joy, anger, sadness, confusion, and serenity. The year after Disney Pixar Studios, which is owned by the same parent company as Lucasfilms is, releases their hit animated film Inside Out, which goes inside the head of a preteen girl named Riley with the 5 emotions: joy, anger, sadness, fear, and disgust. In both versions, there are 5 emotions, and 3 of them are the same. I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of plagiarism, but like, that's crazy. They released within
Right.
a year of each other. Like, what are the odds?
Yeah. That really that surprises me because I always think of the Clone Wars as being so much earlier than Inside Out, but those later seasons
It's a
really
year.
that's crazy. That is crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
By the way, if anybody has not seen the movie Inside Out, please go see it. It's a great one.
yeah,
It's one of Pixar's
it is
best.
amazing. What do you make of the first trial?
Um, the first trial with the Dark Yoda. So, the first trial, here we go. Here's me back on my bullshit again. The Dark Yoda is Yoda's Ghost of Christmas Past. This
Mm,
is what's been in Yoda all along, but he's refused to acknowledge it, just like Scrooge has not acknowledged the life he once used to live before he became this greedy miser and all that kind of stuff, uh and greedy old man and all that kind of stuff. And there's also a weird coincidence where after their first trials, and they take place in Destiny slightly out of order, but I'm fine with that because the metaphor still works. Um,
yeah.
After their first trial, which is both the pasts for Yoda and Scrooge, both of them are like, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it. But the ghosts or the trial, they're like, oh, you thought we were done after one? No, buddy, we're going all 3 of them, okay? We got to do all of them. And it's only once they do all 3 that they really understand the error of their ways. Now, I'm not saying Yoda was as terrible of a person as Scrooge was in A Christmas Carol. I am saying that he goes on a similarly redemptive journey.
As for the dark side Yoda, it's definitely very reminiscent of Luke and Dagobah for me. Facing the darkness
Within him.
within yourself. But
Yeah.
I was more compelled. I was more compelled by the other trials, to be honest.
There were some there's that quote, and I love this so much. Part of me you are, yes, but power over me you have not. Through patience and
Yeah,
training, it is I who control you. Control over me you have not. There's these
that's
very
peak Yoda.
subtle, there's these very subtle distinctions where Yoda, and this is, I think, one of Yoda's biggest lessons that he learned, that the Jedi are just like trying to ignore their anger, and that's not how that works. They don't, ignoring your negative feelings is not the way that works. You acknowledge them, you acknowledge that everybody has those, and it's normal to feel that way, and then you choose light. There's that line from Master and Apprentice that Qui-Gon says, I choose the light because it's there. I go to the, it's going to the light side is not a choice you make once. It's a choice you make every day.
Absolutely right.
And that's what Yoda needs to learn in this arc.
I was very interested in the vision. First of all, did you notice the music? Did you notice the Battle of the Heroes
I did notice
echoes
that.
in there?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
This vision,
It's bleak.
it's so bleak and so chilling, and it's amazing also how it kind of, I guess, for lack of a better, yes, Yoda is a little green talking frog. Yes, he's a 900-year-old talking frog. But for lack of a better word, this humanizes Yoda so much because we see him in his anguish and his failure say, not strong enough I was. Stop this. I could not.
Yeah.
Even Yoda is tempted by that perennial insecurity that
Even
Jedi
Yoda cannot change their fate.
Yeah. Like, that's crazy to me that even Yoda, this 900-year-old Jedi Master, even he has the same struggles that a 20-year-old Anakin, a 16-year-old Ezra Bridger has. That's amazing to me.
I wasn't strong enough.
I really like what they do with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and let's go back to, I think, the most important part of the vision. He sees Mace Windu, he sees Petro. Okay, fine. But who does he talk to? He talks to Ahsoka.
Oh God, what a moment.
His greatest failure since Dooku himself.
Yeah, the one that got away.
Ahsoka Tano. So this is where my thing gets a little out of sequence, because this is the ghost of Christmas yet to come. This is the future, because we know this is what will happen. Ahsoka, if I'm not sure how familiar you are with A Christmas Carol, is Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim is this young boy who is the son of Scrooge's employee Bob Cratchit, and he represents like the innocence in the book, in the story. Ahsoka is Tiny Tim. And in the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come sequence, Tiny Tim is revealed in the vision of the future to have died. And Ahsoka was, of course, revealed in that vision to have died, even though neither of those things actually happen in the future that Scrooge and Yoda actually see. But it's a warning of the dire consequences that they can face if they don't change their ways. And I don't know if you noticed this too. Yoda's a very professional person. He refers to people as Master Kenobi or Master Windu or Padawan Offie or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. Did you notice he called her Ahsoka?
As she's dying, Padawan. Ahsoka.
Like
that moment of desperation. I think that's just another way where this journey is what helps Yoda break out of the old Jedi, break out of the Jedi Order as we know it in the prequels, and transcend to something greater.
Yeah.
I think that's just another little symbol of how that happens.
Oh, by the way, if I could continue my rant for a few minutes, because I didn't. I realized that I didn't talk about Qui-Gon and why Qui-Gon was important earlier. Qui-Gon is the ghost of Scrooge's business partner, whose name is Jacob Marley, who arrives in Scrooge's house before the three other ghosts to say, "Hey, Scrooge, you're really messed up. I know. I've seen things now that I'm dead. You really messed up." That's Qui-Gon to Yoda. Qui-Gon is Marley, and he's saying, he comes to Yoda before any of the trials do, and he says, "Yoda, you gotta listen to me." Yeah. Do we want to get on to the next trial? I think maybe my favorite trial of all of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Ghost of Christmas Present.
Yes.
Or the alternate present, you could say. Katudi takes Yoda to a place where the war never happened. And look where the setting is.
The garden.
It's the garden.
Once again, it's such a perfect metaphor, I think.
It's perfect.
But also, can we just... let me stop you there. Can we
Can we talk about Kotuni? Why was it Kotuni? Just because? Does she? I think as the Padawan,
She
as the
represents
youngling,
innocence.
does she? Yeah, she represents innocence. That's what I thought. But also, what a funny choice! Like, I understand the callback to the
Why was
Gather, but
Petra
still,
one
what
of
a
the people
funny
lying
choice.
dead though?
Yeah,
Like
Petra. Like, I
Petra was just
understand that they're
there.
referencing it. I understand that we see Gunji in the garden as well. So I guess it makes sense. But yeah, this garden scene is
Maybe
just
it's like, okay, we gotta
absolutely
reuse
haunting.
some assets somehow.
We gotta reuse some. We gotta make it a. If I could be a little cynical, we gotta make it look like everything's tying together somehow.
Anyway,
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see though.
But
Like,
yeah,
no
there's
complaints from me.
yeah, it's really cool to see them. There's a line that Yoda says to Luke on Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back. Here we go, back again. If you do what Vader did, if you choose the quick and easy path, you will become an agent of evil. This is offering Yoda the quick and easy path out of it. And, you know, it's kind of the opposite with Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, because Scrooge is a very miserable old man, and this is showing him the wonder of everything, and he has to learn to embrace that. Yoda, it's showing him wonder, but he has to turn away from that because that's not actually what's happening.
Yeah. And it's so heartbreaking. Like, it's amazing that he's able to turn away.
Yeah.
Because of the temptation of what's being offered there, where everything is just fixed, everything is okay. But then, of course, you get the iconic line, wrong this is, lies these images are.
Yeah.
And the most bone-chilling moment, I know look, take a shot for every time I say the word chill or chilling or chills
Goosebumps.
In this episode, or goosebumps. But this moment might be the most chilling of them all.
Sorry.
Right when he says lies these images, or wrong these images are, lies, whatever. The way everyone just stops and stares at him murderously.
By the
That
way,
is absolutely chilling.
it's chilling. By the way, I want to pause for a second. I get those goosebumps every time. Yeah. I need the Heimlich.
I need the Heimlich. Does Yoda need the Heimlich?
Does Yoda need the Heimlich? These are the hard hitting Star Wars theories you come to this show for.
Not the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is gonna be like Travis Scott in Star Wars, not clickbait.
Not clickbait. I will reference this too, because I'm gonna talk about this more later in the episode, I think, probably. But Dooku mentions to Yoda in the vision, facing off against a Terentatek on Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Which is a beast from the Star Wars video game Knights of the Old Republic, which I'm actually currently replaying right now. I forgot how good that game is. Like, I know there are a lot of people who are like, are in our community who are like, ugh, Legends and all that kind of stuff. I know toxic fanboys might have ruined Legends for some of you. Take it from me, a guy who loves Rise of Skywalker more than most Star Wars movies. When Legends is good, Legends slaps.
Legends has a way of just transporting you like little else can.
Yeah. KOTOR is a magical game, and I love it. I still not a huge fan of Revan, but I love the world building of that game. It's magical. I faced off on similar against similar beasts like the Kinrath on Kashyyyk, and it's a crazy experience.
To go back to the Ahsoka Yoda moment, this makes their moment in Rebels even better, I think. Even though this is Yoda's vision and Ahsoka, I guess, doesn't really know that this happened. You know, clearly it's Ahsoka for a reason. Clearly, I believe that, you know, with the cosmic force tying everything together, the way that the Ahsoka talks to Yoda in this vision has to have something to do with how Ahsoka feels, clearly. Not just from what Yoda knows, but because she is also part of the Force. So with that in mind, I think the little knowing smile the two share in season 2 in the Jedi Temple in season 2 of Rebels, that is, it just makes that moment all the more better, knowing that yes,
they have reconciled. Not that they were ever not reconciled to say, but like, yes, they are all cool. They still understand the bigger picture. And in a way, they both kind of transcended the kind of the shackles, the political, military, traditionalist shackles of the Old Republic. Ahsoka by leaving, Yoda by going on this quest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah. In Sacrifice, Yoda goes to Moraband. He enters a Sith temple where he finds the spirit of the ancient Sith Lord Darth Bane, baby. One of my favorite Sith Lords from Star Wars Legends. On Coruscant, we go to Coruscant where Sidious calls Dooku and he's like, "Hey, Yoda's going through some stuff. We're gonna make things hard for him because that's what we do." So there's the priestesses appear to him on Moraband, and they're like, "That chamber over there is very dangerous. Sith used to sacrifice Jedi over there. You're going to face the Sith of your time there." And the Sith create an illusion where he sees Sifo-Dyas, or what appears to be Sifo-Dyas, but he does not give in to the temptation. And then Yoda gets transported into a battle with Anakin Skywalker against Dooku and Sidious. Anakin kills Dooku in the ensuing battle, or let's say this: Anakin does it. And Yoda and Anakin battle against Sidious, with Yoda desperate to find out who the Sith Lord is, but alas, with their dramatic as all hell duel, he is not able to find out who the Sith Lord is. He then goes back to Coruscant and reveals what he's learned to Mace Windu and Obi-Wan in... I'm going to say this. My favorite scene of the entire season is the last one of season 6, of this episode. That scene in the garden with them at the end is maybe one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, like, period. My mind is never not blown.
Yeah, it's haunting. It's absolutely haunting.
It's incredible. It's haunting, but it's hopeful, and it's like, Fortune cookie. Facing all that you fear will free you from yourself. Want to start off with this one?
I mean, pretty much, right? Especially for Yoda, confronting... I mean, as Yoda says, named must your fears be before banish them you can. You have to confront your fears, confront your anxieties. This is what makes them manageable. This is how you can tackle them. And that is exactly what Yoda does here, as he maybe semi-knowingly, semi-unknowingly kind of is being prepared for the next era of the galaxy in a post Jedi Order era.
Yeah, this episode is just a masterpiece, and I love the ways that Yoda faces his fears in this episode. By the way, do you want to just go ahead, I just want to talk about Moraband, and I want to talk about Darth Bane.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
I love Darth Bane. Bane is one of my favorite characters from Star Wars Legends. And who is he voiced by in this episode?
None other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Hamill.
A god among men and women and non-binary folk themselves. He's... By the way, did you realize that this is technically, timeline-wise, the first interaction between a Mark Hamill character and Yoda in the Star Wars timeline?
That's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious.
That's pretty funny when you think about it. Before Luke, there was Bane. But, could you tell it was Mark? Because I honestly, I was listening for it, and I could not tell. He's that good of a voice actor.
Totally couldn't. I mean, before we kick off the Bane part, I just want to clap it up for Moraband, whatever you want to call it, finally appearing on screen after getting
so much hype, mythos build up
in Legends.
I think I think they really do justice
It's
to it.
Moraband, Korriban, whatever you want to call it. Both names are canon, believe it or not. According to the according to the George Mann book, Dark Legends, one of the tales from Dark Legends begins in the time when Moraband was called Korriban, which confirms that they are the same planet, and that you can go with whatever you want. I like Korriban better because I'm used to it from Legends, and again, I've been playing KOTOR, and one of the planets that you visit in KOTOR is indeed Korriban. I remember being on Korriban in KOTOR, and this looks very accurate to the KOTOR version, which is very cool. Do you got anything between Bane and Sifo-Dyas, or do you want to go on to Sifo-Dyas?
No, I just thought they did a good job of doing justice to it's such a good rendition of the age-old Jedi trial, I think, of having to see through the illusions, and I think it's really great. I think it's a great scene. But yeah, should we I mean, Dooku coming to Coruscant, if we have to quickly go through there.
Dun, 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 dun.
That is absolutely chilling, the way Palpatine Sidious greets him is just like, oh yeah, we have an opportunity. Come on now, let's go. It's chilling. But yeah, you want to get to the ritual?
Yeah, this ritual is crazy. First of all, Sith sorcery in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah. Really reminded me of A World Between Worlds. It seemed like he was using the same kind of objects and techniques.
Yeah, but like the drop of blood, the excess of force lightning, that's so incredibly brutal. But I love it so much. It's great. It's incredible. And the Sifo-Dyas illusion was really impressive. I thought it was very well done. I love what the Force priestesses say about it. Be careful, for what they offer may certainly seem like an answer. Which is very, very dark side. It's,
100%.
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna tell you something that sounds like an answer, but is actually not an answer. I love the Sifo-Dyas thing, but really I think the meat of the episode is in the battle between Yoda and Sidious and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the Sifo-Dyas thing, like that's cool. Obviously, even Yoda, being tempted with power, again, again, props to these episodes for showing us that different side of Yoda. But once the duel starts, once it's revealed that it's Palpatine, that's when it really gets crazy. We have the moment where Yoda's transported to the gunship.
Yeah.
And he's talking with Anakin, and then we're back, and oh my goodness. It is so good. What are your thoughts?
It's incredible. One of my favorite things is, first of all, let's talk about let's talk about I want to talk about Anakin and Dooku when they duel. Did you notice that Anakin crosses the sabers?
Yeah.
And by the way, did you notice that Dooku's dead body makes the same noise as his dead body in Revenge of the Sith?
Okay, that I did not notice, and I don't know how you did, but I'm very impressed by that.
It's incredible, the accuracy which they did it, and the whole do it thing. I gotta say, given how much I love Yoda and Palpatine, this is not a criticism of the episode, this is kind of just like what it is. Given how much I love both those characters, you'd think I'd like to see them dueling more, but I actually really hate duels that have both of them in it, because it's like basically a green frog flipping around everywhere, versus Palpatine, who objectively does not know how to use a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't know how to use a lightsaber. He does the most insane and ridiculous moves, and then he's just up against Yoda, who's this flipping green frog.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
I certainly did enjoy this duel, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I did as well, but like, yeah.
I definitely liked it. Again, really well, as I said last time, really well executed from a quality standpoint, I think. And the scene at the end with lightning, with him lifting Anakin when he's forced to make the choice, that to me is just freaking insane. That it's Yoda's benevolence and goodness and his continued commitment to the light side that saves him in the temptation of such evil, even as everything that he wants is right there if he makes the choice to let Anakin die.
Yeah, it's the choice that Yoda makes between, I don't know, fighting the ones he hates or saving the ones he loves.
Interesting.
Last Jedi comes in clutch again.
Last Jedi comes in clutch.
Yeah, no, I will never stop talking about and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I also love this too. Look at this. Tempted I will not be. Sacrifice all I will do. Notice, this is my favorite. Notice every single character who becomes a Force ghost in some way, shape, or form sacrifices themselves, except for Yoda. Or, I'll put it this way, is murdered. In some sort of, like, sacrificial, like, you know, like, Qui-Gon dies so, you know, Obi-Wan and Anakin can live. Becomes a Force ghost. Ben, you know what happens to Kenobi. Luke, you know what happens to Luke. Anakin, you know what happens to Anakin. Ben Solo, again, sacrifices himself so Rey can live. Leia sacrifices herself so Ben can live. Yoda is the only one who becomes a Force ghost but does not have to sacrifice himself to do it. Because and yet he is prepared to sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. That is an incredible detail. I never would have noticed that.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Yeah, any more thoughts about this episode? Because
we got to talk about there are two more things I want to bring up.
All right, for sure.
Number one, let's talk about the visions. The Yoda gets a bunch of visions as it fades to white before he gets off of Moraband. Actually, this is what I'm talking about. Knowledge, guidance, wisdom. There is another Skywalker.
What a moment. That confused me even.
It's confusing as hell, but like, so what we're supposed to say is that the Force Priestess gave Yoda the information that there is another Skywalker. And I was a little bit confused as to who this other Skywalker was supposed to be. And I understand in the context of Return of the Jedi, it's Leia. But, as we know, Leia's not alive at this time. So, here's my thought. What if there is another Skywalker at this time, is not referring to Leia, but is actually referring to her mother? There is another Skywalker. Not by
that would certainly be something.
Bloodline, but by marriage. Just a thought. Also, by the way, in that Fade to White, we hear TIE Fighter blasts, Imperial alarms, and Darth Vader's breathing, which is so incredible. The garden scene at the end is perfect. Let me just read this speech to you, okay? Did you learn any wisdom about how to win the war? No longer certain that one ever does win a war, I am. For in fighting the battles, the bloodshed already lost we have. Yet open to us, a path remains that unknown to the Sith is. Through this path, victory we may yet find. Not victory in the Clone Wars, but victory for all time.
Wow.
In Season 1, Episode 11, Lair of Grievous, there's a quote that, I reference a lot that Yoda says to Kit Fisto at the end of the episode. In this war, a danger there is of losing who we are. This is the moment where Yoda realized that there isn't a danger of doing that at all. Because it's already happened.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another moment this reminded me of, in a perfect full circle moment, we come back to Ambush, where Yoda says, I can't remember the exact quote, but to paraphrase, he says to one of the clones, "You don't win the war, you can only survive the war."
Yeah.
It's such a perfect final send-off for the Clone Wars.
Look.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I will rant all day and all night about how the Helmet in the Snow is perfect for the end of the Clone Wars. But I'm not gonna lie, this was pretty damn good too.
Yeah. I mean, overall, as a send-off episode, I thought this was nothing short of amazing and heartbreaking.
This
absolutely killed. And to be honest, watching it now, having watched season 7 of the Clone Wars, having watched the Clone Wars, having watched the Bad Batch, all that, I still feel like this is a send-off. And I still consider it a send-off. I still feel like it serves a purpose as a send-off.
Yeah.
Just given that this was really the end of the Clone Wars functionally for a long time. Season 7 didn't come out.
6 years.
Season 7 didn't come out for 6 years after that. The franchise was in a very different place when season 7
We were post-sequels. We were post-Mandalorian. We were
Season 7 had a very different approach. It had a very different mission in what it was trying to do. So yeah, I still consider this kind of the send-off for the main line of Clone Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's this, I want to watch this sometimes. I want to watch that, not victory in the Clone Wars, but victory for all time. And then it pans up, and then we pan down again. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. War.
What a moment that would be.
What?
What a moment that would be.
The transition between Sacrifice and the beginning of Revenge of the Sith would be chilling. The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the fearsome, by the fearsome Separatist Alliance. I'm probably getting some of that wrong, but anyway, it's awesome. This arc is awesome. There are so many things that I didn't say that I have in these notes. It's just such a rich arc. This arc is great. What is your ranking of these 4?
Wow. Well, first off, ranking these episodes.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you're gonna be like, ranking. How dare you?
Yeah, feels really freaking hard, and you're right. It is almost a ranking how dare you moment because of how amazing these all are, and because of what they do for you, what they do to bring the OG Clone Wars to a close. With that being said, I think I would have to give the nod in my number 1 episode. It's so hard. I think I would have to give the nod to Voices.
Really interesting.
Actually, Destiny. I think Destiny.
Okay, so you're
Destiny,
going Destiny, Voices,
then Voices, then Sacrifice, then The Lost One. But I can't even really rank that. Like,
for me,
even saying that, it's so the difference in overall how much I like them. It's so freaking marginal because of how amazing these episodes all are. And it doesn't even feel right to rank them.
For me, it's reverse sequential. It's Sacrifice at the top, then Destiny in a close second, then Voices, then The Lost One. Sacrifice is just like, if Sacrifice didn't have the final conversation in the garden, I might have to reconsider. It might be close, but that garden conversation at the end really hits the mark for me. It's just too good. We're good. You want to go on to everybody's favorite part of Star Wars in a Galaxy?
Yes.
Let's get on to everybody's favorite part of Star Wars in the Galaxy. What you brought me to die is worth 1/4 portion. That's right, it's 1/4 portion, the part of in the Galaxy where we do something a little bit different. Today, I thought we would do it this month.
This month.
Yeah. What do you enjoy in Star Wars this month? I'll talk about Knights of the Old Republic because it's great. And I love it. I've been playing a lot of Knights of the Old Republic these days on my Xbox. It's great. It's such a fun game to play. It's such a crazy look at the Star Wars universe from 2003. I'm playing the dark side playthrough of the game, which really does feel like I'm playing a different game than the light side playthrough sometimes. It's completely magical. I'm currently on the planet of Manan. I was just on Tatooine and Kashyyyk. But I'm currently on the planet Manan trying to investigate some Selkath murders and disappearances that are pretty suspicious. And I am about as dark side as you can be right now on my Force scale, which is weird because I get to be an asshole to everybody and just have no consequences for that.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
It's
for my this month, I am going to pick the canon novel Leia.
I reread it recently.
Princess of Alderaan. It is, in my opinion, it's one of the best new canon editions in terms of books. I guess relatively new. Yeah, I really dug it.
Claudia Gray.
I thought it was very enjoyable. Claudia Gray did an amazing job with that one. It's kind of a funny book too, because the whole thing is basically just a bunch of space high schoolers. But it's a really enjoyable read nonetheless, and it really does kind of bring out a different side of Leia, and just give a little bit more depth and weight to what we see of her elsewhere. Also, Holdo, Admiral Holdo. I definitely was definitely more fond of her as a character after her appearances in the Leia novel.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. Thank you for watching. Next week, we are going to be taking a look back. We finished Season 6 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, people. We've done it. We're going to be taking a look back at our overall thoughts about the season as a whole and why it's the best of all 7. Oh, wait, is that just one of us? Okay, whatever. Okay, anyway, so until then, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We will be there. If we're not, email us at swinagalaxy@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at InAGalaxyPod, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Star Wars in a Galaxy. Follow my personal Twitter account at OchiFan327. And in the meantime, may the Force be with you. Always.